Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. It's Monday, February 22nd, 2021, and this is the Daily Medicine Transmission. All right, so new space, new sound potentially, and it's Monday, so there's a lot of newness when we when we roll around to Monday. It always seems like that, even though it's kind of an arbitrary demarcation. It does seem like because we all collectively agree that it's Monday, there is a sense of newness as we come to this moment. So welcome. Thanks for being here. I had every intention and a really great content to present on Friday's transmission. And, it was just more important to be present in the moment. Sometimes I can't speak for everybody. This is just for myself, but this work that I do requires to a certain extent that when I dip into the energetic sphere very deeply, when I am working multidimensionally, I do find myself, I wouldn't say less present, but certainly less involved in the nuts and bolts of my own everyday reality. And the message was really clear over the weekend, and it kind of forced me onto a different track, which is you just have to sometimes get into the present moment in order to really understand what's going on with you. It's very easy when you are in a healer position, if you are in any kind of communication position, teacher, a reader, an intuitive, anything like that, we tend to give and give and give and output. And the transmission today is really an extension of what's been happening for the last couple of days, which is what we have to discover and the potential for discovery of ourselves when we allow ourselves to be still. And sometimes the stillness doesn't necessarily mean literally just being still and doing nothing, but it does sometimes mean taking a step back from the output and the very cerebral aspect and just being in the moment and being very grounded into the present reality. So Friday definitely felt to me that I was on a track and somebody pulled that track switching device and off I went. And what are you going to do? You're already on a new trajectory. And so I was like, wait, I wanted to be over there doing the daily medicine. And I was like, bye. And the whole weekend was like that. It was a momentum. It just took me on a different trajectory where very little screen time, very little work, very focused on the home and the chores and the responsibilities that were really about being present in my relationships, in getting this new space set up, all of these things. And we really do learn a lot about ourselves when we can get into that stillness. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean stillness is that we sit in meditation for hours and hours on end. That does have its place if that's something that works for you, but more about bringing ourselves into the present moment and grounding ourselves in it, as opposed to this very consistent output, especially if your work revolves around output, either information, energy, healing energy, reading, whatever it is that you're doing that seems to that puts you in a position where you're putting out and that you're giving. You do have to balance it out with the receiving. So in this transmission today, as we see in this reading, we're gonna look at what there is to actually gain by receiving and being in sacred stillness, because there is definitely a sense of lack of completion. And that's been really frustrating. Last week was a very frustrating week. We had a lot of really big astrological transits. Saturn and Uranus were square on the 17th. The sun entered Pisces on the 18th, so that's switching gears into, again, another emotional and receptive state, but also in the way that we fulfill ourselves, how we identify ourselves, the sun, and, the giving of ourselves as an action, which seems almost counterintuitive, but with Pisces, sun in Pisces, this is, the energy dissipates. The boundaries really start to dissolve. We start to really identify ourselves with the collective in a very emotional way. And we had the first quarter square on Friday, between the sun and the moon, and Venus squaring Mars as well. There was a lot of tension and a lot of really squaring off about, again, the receiving end of things and the output of things, and a lot of protective energy coming into the weekend. What we were going to do, were we going to protect ourselves, put that energy into, pulling in, or at the same time, are we going to allow that part of ourselves, that internalized part of ourselves, Venus and the moon, be very disciplined about our mind. And those two things, as much as they were square with each other, they also presented a real teachable moment about how we protect ourselves, how we have caution, how we manage our own energy and boundaries, but also how we can give. And I think that we really learned about how that balance plays out over the weekend. Mercury is now direct, okay? And it's important to realize that when these planets move and station from one direction to another, of course, it's just an illusion. They're not actually moving forwards or backwards. It's just an illusion based on our perception and our position. That's interesting right there. It slows down to a stop almost, and then starts back up. So even though Mercury is now stationed direct on the 20th, 2 days ago, on Saturday, it is just now starting to get its momentum back. And so there is a stalling in some ways in terms of our mind, communication, and this really provided a very good opportunity to get still, right? To bask in the stillness, to step back from all of that really heady cerebral action, realize that we're all on our own trajectory, that we are all on a different place on this stairway that is the ascension process, and to just honor that for what it is. And you can't really do that if you're continuing to output. And so even though Mercury is now direct, it is just now starting to get its momentum back and moving forward. So that also has really played into this pullback and this emotional discovery that the stillness has provided. I listened to, there's a channel that I'm going to link called Our Everyday Lives, and he has such fantastic messages and transmissions as well. And I really love, there's a couple people that I still listen to that it really aligns with, and everybody's message is unique, but this one really stuck with me yesterday. I'm looking out my window right now and it's still snowing. Now that's supposed to change this week, at least where I'm at. So we're still in this holding pattern to a certain extent. And one of the things that he said in his transmission that I'll link in the comments to this video because it's so good. It was just, you just have to sit with it. And this is where we're finding ourselves. We just have to sit with it. And there's a serious lack of patience coming into the moment and a frustration that these creative cycles are not complete yet. And we really have an opportunity today, especially with the moon in Cancer, to really allow ourselves to just sit with it. And I really appreciate his perspective and his transmissions. There's the snowplow. To just sit with it. And even so, there's so many things we can sit with. Of course. And everybody, again, is in a different place and has different challenges. And, I'm sitting here watching this snow in my comfy, warm, wonderful house on my amazing property, and really having to sit with survivor's guilt as as I am aware of what's happening in Texas, for instance, and feeling really powerless to do anything, and wondering why things are so um, you know, they're so good here in my little sphere of reality and what I can do. And sometimes you just have to sit with that too. You just have to sit with that. And survivor's guilt is a real thing, a very real thing. And it's something that can really hold you back from learning from your situation. If you are, that is a Pisces thing too. Oh boy, because that's its own martyrdom in some weird way, when you have survivor's guilt, because you don't, take the situation for what it is and do your best with it. So we just have to sit with it right now, because there is a lack of patience, and we are moving, and there is a cycle, right, that is going to be completing itself, and it's just not quite there yet. And we have, like I said, a real opportunity to, get ourselves connected into our own divine channel of power, and really leave behind a lot of the illusory battle that a lot of us have been really, really fighting. So we're going to go through this reading piece at a time, as per usual, and we're just going to get right into it. Like I said, the moon is in Cancer. We'll be in Cancer all day. There's going to be an astrology report coming. We have a full moon coming. So we're in the second quarter now. That first quarter square on Friday was a big, with Venus squaring Mars. That was a really tense moment of what are we going to do? How are we going to give of ourselves and also manage and protect ourselves at the same time? And the stillness has been and just sitting with it, as Michael says, from our everyday lives, just sitting with it. That's the best thing that we can do in order to really, lean into the discomfort of those two seemingly opposing forces. Venus and Mars squaring off is not an easy energy, along with the sun and the moon squaring off, these two polar opposites of ourselves, in a square energy, going totally different trajectories, and meeting each other and causing tension. So as we come into this moment, as I had said here, so 8 of Discs, prudence. We're seriously lacking some patience coming into this moment. We can be over anxious when it comes to some risks. And the sun in Virgo is the time of year where, the focus of the growing cycle is now on the fruit that bears the seed of the next cycle. And a lot is happening under the surface in the soil, in an annual growing cycle. This is, the hormonal patterns and the focus of the plant changes, just like in any being that is gestating something, some life. So this time is about being patient and, knowing when it's time to act, and not trying to push anything further further forward than what it's naturally meant to go, and to do the work under the surface. That's where it's all happening. You don't see it. You don't see anything happening, but it is all happening, and it's all happening to support the growth of the fruit, right? The fruit that's going to bear the seed of the next cycle. And so coming into the moment here where, we are collectively holding is a lack of patience, right? We want things to move along, and we are really trying to push things. And this at the same time, this keeps us from actually being in tune with the larger cycles, and we can be very foolish and take stupid risks when it comes to the big decisions because we are very focused and overcautious about the small things. And this is again how we can bypass this stillness by getting a hyper focused and a little obsessive compulsive in some ways. It's a very Virgo thing, right? To be a little obsessive compulsive, anal retentive, those kinds of energies and those kinds of traits that we, want to make sure everything is exactly where it needs to be. And we're missing the big picture here. And so again, when we can just allow this process to unfold naturally, we can be ready to act when the time comes to act. And there will be the time to come act. This full moon is going to be a quickening. Absolutely. It's going to be a quickening, and it's also going to be, we're going to see how we are so desperate to express ourselves that we may push things forward or try to push things forward when it's not time, right? The moon will be in Virgo, actually, for the full moon, so something to consider. Now, serious lack of patience. Now, Four of Wands, also reversed. This is a completion. Venus in Aries. This is a cycle that completes. The Four, right? There's some structural integrity here. And groundedness, and in Aries, it's a cycle that completes. And again, usually when this card shows up, sometimes it doesn't seem like it's a celebration or something that's completion, but it's usually a completion that allows for us to learn something. It's something that comes to a close as the result of maybe a little bit of an explosion in some ways. You do see the fire here. And in this card, the cycle, it's all the same regardless if it's up reversed or if it's upright. We still have a cycle coming to completion in this moment, but we are not aligning with it, right? We are not feeling very, not feeling very patient, not very tranquil about it. We're not accepting this completion, whatever it is. And we may have overestimated ourselves. Again, we have to be patient and allow the process to unfold naturally, which is the prudence part. We need to be patient, and we are not really patient. We want things to move along when they're not ready. And so now, as this cycle is completing, in this moment, we're not feeling very complete. Okay, we're feeling anxious, I think, still. And this is why the stillness is so important in this moment, because there is an overestimation of where things are going. And I think that we have to take a step back again, and there's a lot here to discover. And it's not to say that there isn't a completion of a cycle. It's pretty clear that there is. And Venus here is still in Aquarius, right? She's still, she's getting into those last couple of degrees of Aquarius, and, she's much more focused right now on the feeling aspect of Aquarius as opposed to the mind aspect of Aquarius. Which is an important part of the Aquarian archetype. I mean, the real genius and the real freedom that comes from the Aquarian archetype is the ability to feel into natural law, cosmic coherence. So, but this right here is like, I want something to be complete, and I'm not very settled. And this is, again, making us penny wise, but pound foolish. The big stuff we're missing. And because we're so focused on the smaller things. Now, with Michael here, there's a lot of reversals. If you saw Michael here, Archangel Michael, also reversed. We're really collectively, in terms of our institutional power, how we gain our power together because of what we're creating. We need to connect to our real power. This is a dissipation and a growing feeling of loss and weakness. It's too bad I really couldn't have given the transmission for Friday, because that was definitely the outcome, is the loss and the dissipation of energy as a result of this very thing. And we may not know what to do, or how to use our energy. And so we have to work on letting go of old perceptions and taking action on our own behalf if we don't feel like we can necessarily take action on other people's behalf in this moment. I mean, I think it does, we are feeling like something isn't necessarily completing. We want things to move along faster, and we do feel powerless in some ways. And this is really reminding us that our power, our collective power, and our institutional power, like the zenith, right? The top of the chart here is, we have access to it if we tap into it. We have to tap into it though. And this may, again, comes right back around into the stillness, right? Into allowing for this space. And even the most mundane actions can be considered sacred. And that really, again, allows for us to be present in the moment. And so we can turn this around and not feel loss or weakness. We can tap into our own divine power, because this is where our real power lies together, and to take action on our own behalf if we feel powerless to do anything about what's going on outside of us. Part of this is letting go of old perceptions. Part of letting go of old perceptions is being able to be still, being able to let the mind settle so that we can even let those things come to the surface in more of our intuitive awareness, okay? Moon in Cancer is incredibly psychic, right? This is allowing for that intuitive insight to be very strong, because there is a containment system with the Cancer energy, right? Which is our family, our familial bonds, who we're loyal to, and our personal power. The fourth house in the nadir is our roots. Our roots hold us and stabilize us, and that's going to allow us to get this insight of where our power is and letting go of old perceptions. And speaking of which, here is where we can be rooted, our personal power. The Six of Roses, the War of the Roses, it is still so strong. And I know it because I feel it too. I feel it too, right? The bifurcation, the frustration, the resentment towards those that are squaring off. Remember, Venus and Mars squaring off, the sun and the moon squaring off over the weekend on Friday. There's so much frustration. And it's being aggravated so much by, social media, mainstream news. I mean, all of those communication outlets are absolutely aggravating this situation because they want this to be the case. So when it's reversed like this, it is about coming to terms with what it is that we have been fighting against. Is just really been a version of ourselves. And, we're free from the struggle now. This is where we can really root ourselves by clearing the battlefield and releasing ourselves from the struggle instead of engaging in it. And this conflict has really disrupted our lives, as many of us know and continue to know. And there's, again, anger, there's resentment, there's frustration. We want things to clear up. We want to move on. But part of that is that we have to choose to let go of this, the tension of this bifurcation. We have to choose this. We have to walk away from this battle. And if we can root ourselves, our personal power can be in this, letting it go, clearing the battlefield. And again, this means walking away from the screen for a little while. Not everybody has to fight the battle all the time, and walking away. Nurturing the relationships you do have, laughing, feeling joy, being present in the moment with people instead of this all the time. If we can let go of that, and boy, it's hard. It's not easy. But if we can root ourselves, this is where we get our personal power, and we can really then connect into divine power, that Archangel Michael archetype, right? So, and because we have so much to gain here, here's the only upright card in this entire reading, as you'll see, except for the animal messages. They're always upright. Even the guidance cards are going to be reversed. the Queen of Discs, right? The feminine of the earth and the water, right? The water of the earth. This is very receptive. Again, this is passive, but not in a victimhood type of way, passive. This is someone who is aware of what they have and is in authority of what they have and protects what they have, loves who they have, who is in their lives. This is someone that is very secure in their material reality, someone who is an authority of it. This is someone who is able to provide protection and sustenance and nourishment. I mean, this card is all about the stillness and the confidence and the groundedness and who we are based on our what we have. And this, in the traditional Rider Waite or the Queen of Pentacles, this is the pregnancy card, right? This is being fully cognizant of what we have and being able to hold it. And this is, if we can tap into that divine power, if we can each personally tap into the clearing the battlefield, not engaging in the battle, and letting that really root us and stabilize us, especially with the moon in Cancer, right? That Cancer energy is the nadir. It is the root structure. We can really allow ourselves to tap into the emotional discovery part of things, okay? And then from there, I mean, the divine power that allows us to accept the completion, right? To have some patience in the process, to realize that the cycle is always going around and that wheel will turn back around again and it will complete. There's no doubt about it. But we need to up level to a certain extent in order to complete that cycle. And part of that is the emotional discovery. Neptune has moved into the next degree, is now officially in the third decan of Pisces. And now it is really about the cycle, really coming to realize the cycle is ending and that is going to cross over into something new. So again, that's going to be, this is a long process with Neptune and Pisces, but now it's official that into that third decan now, that we've gone from the trusting of the process to the transmission of the spiritual knowledge, the sacred knowledge, to now starting to feel it, right? Because we're going to the next step is into Aries, right? The cycle is going to complete and then start to differentiate back into form, and potency and desire. So it's important that we're able to have this emotional discovery and to realize what we have and to be very confident and authoritative in the best way possible over our own space. Okay. Now, when it comes to, so again, the lightning bolt, the Eight of Forces, again, reversed, there is dynamic force and energy, right? If you look at this, again, the tree has been split. The storm, the flash has happened, whatever this is, right? The energy has come through. It has split the life down the middle, whatever this is, and it's time to seek new ground. It's time to move forward. Now, if you remember back on January 6th, we had a quarter square. I can't remember which one now. This was the lightning bolt in both the sun and the moon, right? What are we going to do about this moment? Because on the one hand, it challenges us in terms of something happening that we don't expect. And then we allow that to fertilize the ground, prepare the ground for the new experience. It like dissipates all of the energy. That's what lightning is. It's homeostasis in a natural way, right? The discharge of energy because there's too much imbalance, right? And that was when Mars came into Taurus as well. So Mars coming into the actual fertile soil. And that is going to, that's going to reach a peak when Mars is in a trine to Pluto in just a couple of days. I'll talk about that on the astrology because that's really important. But when this card is like this reversal, it's time to seek new ground. There's so much energy available to us, but it requires that we identify that the split has already happened, and that we can connect to this energy. Again, Archangel Michael, the flaming sword. There's so much energy here to engage with. Right? And it's really meant to take action for our own behalf. It's really meant to move on to new ground, to take that energy and to allow it to create something new for us, right? We can't keep, but that again requires that we're having this internalized experience and this emotional discovery. And the Kiwi comes out a lot, and it says, do a walking meditation each day for a week. We really have to get our minds out of this compulsive worry, this compulsive movement. And it's going to be a little bit more difficult now that Mercury is direct in Aquarius. But in this present moment right now, it's still very slow moving. And so we can harness this moment, just like we can harness the energy from the lightning that came and already did the damage. We can harness that and use that power to come to some discovery about ourselves right now. And so doing a walking meditation, groundedness, earthiness, right? You're putting one foot in front of the other. You're actually very intentional about what you're doing. It's balancing both sides of the brain and the body when you walk. We want to let go of overthinking and worry, right? You can do this through meditation, and sometimes movement it makes you even more present in your body. And so this is some way that you can harness that energy instead of letting it just take you, right? Because that is a lot. The lightning bolt, the 8 of forces, Archangel Michael, that's a lot of energy. So in order to harness this, it's good to get grounded. It's good to do these meditations. This is again, sit with it, be still with it. That doesn't mean literally be still, but we have to push out in some ways. We have to let all of that settle away, all of the static and all of the chatter and everything, and just get really clear on what we each are doing and pushing out the worry and the overthinking. Let it settle to the bottom, just like sand, in a glass of water. So this can really help. I mean, I understand, believe me, my mind is always working. It's I've been meditating and doing this work for decades, and it's still a daily that's why it's called a practice, right? It's a practice. Now, the blue heron, when it comes to the War of the Roses, right? Leaving the battlefield, disengaging from the battle of emotions, right? There's some autonomy here. Dignity, self-determination, boundaries are really important. This allows us to be comfortable in uncertain situations because we know where we begin and end. We follow our own path. We're not caught up in the battle. Boy, that really serves somebody else's purpose, not ours. And so this is about balance, and it is about making a stand for what you believe in, but it also is about being comfortable in certain situations, knowing who you are, knowing where your boundaries are, knowing where you end and others begin, and not getting caught in the flow of that battle, right? Letting go of it, walking away, clearing the battlefield, and doing that within yourself, right? Clearing the battlefield within yourself, and be easy on yourself. Come back to it if you're struggling, right? This is, again, why it's called a practice. And have some autonomy, right? It's really easy to get caught up in one side or the other and having to then get caught up in the groupthink of one side or the other. And it's not really like that. We're all individuals. We all have our own experience of reality. And so this also will allow you to step out of that dichotomy and that bifurcation by being yourself and following your own path. Because the 5 of Scrolls being reversed, diversity of thought can really, again, it can, in some ways, it's great to have the diversity of thought, but in this instance, we're really getting distracted by all of these potential, positions that we can take. So bring it in, Focus on one thing, right? Worry about things. Again, you don't want to worry about things you can't control, that you can't do anything about, that you don't have, because that's going to start defining you in lack. And then you're going to, that's what you're going to start aligning with. And then you'll see that in your reality. That'll be your reality, is the lack of things. So choose a single focus in the present. Don't get caught up in all of the different potential streams right this moment. And when you do that, that's real freedom. When you choose to focus in on the present, you give yourself permission and freedom to act on it fully. And when you can do that, then again, it all starts to settle, right? You get very grounded, you become very conscious and aware, and that's when your intuition really starts to turn on, basically, right? It starts to power up in a way that you can't access when you're in a worry and overthinking. Virgo can be like this in its dark shadow element, the overthinking, the worry, the consistent trying to analyze everything, detail, make sure it's everywhere that it needs to be. And this is be fully present. And this is where the emotional discovery really comes from. And then when we learn about who we are, that's what we present to the world. Not trying to change anybody's mind, not trying to make anything happen that's not fully in our awareness right now. We have to sit with what is here right now. And when we allow ourselves to come in and focus fully on the present and not get pulled in multiple directions or even pulled into a battle where we think that we are facing somebody different, but that North Node in Gemini, we're just looking at the mirror image of ourselves, right? When we can see that, and we can come into the present, that emotional discovery is going to allow us to up-level significantly. Because once that full moon comes, we're going to have to be ready to a certain extent to up-level. Like, we have to be conscious and aware of ourselves when that happens. We don't want to be in that obsessive, compulsive, worry, overthinking part of Virgo when the moon gets there. We want to know exactly what our trajectory is, and we want to be focused on that. And that's going to be different for everybody, of course, because that's where Mercury is in Aquarius right now. We're all on different steps on this staircase of ascension. And be easy on yourself, realize and accept where you are, and go from there. So that's the transmission for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you. If you are interested in booking a reading, I'm doing a bunch of starseed readings this week. So you can go to catalystenergies.net and check out the services tab and book through the website. And everything else you need is in the description box below. Please consider joining us on Telegram. It's super fun over there. And also, if you are watching this video on YouTube or BitChute, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. It allows this to be more visible to other people looking for similar information. And I really appreciate everything that you are doing to take care of yourself and be present. And if we can all do this, then I think we're on a good track together. So I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. I'll see you actually on the weekly astrology report that I'm going to do right after this. So take care of yourselves, and yeah, I'll see you.